I have a stone here and I have a tree here. If I sit down with you, we're going to critically analyze what differentiates a rock from a tree. It won't take long. You'll come to the following conclusion. The stone has no life. It is an inanimate entity. And the tree has life. So what differentiates the tree from the stone is life. And I agree, it's life. Now I'm going to get a tree and a dog. You told me that the difference between the tree and the stone is that the tree had life and the stone had no life. All good. Now I'm going to bring you a dog and I'm going to ask you what's the difference between a dog and a tree. First, the dog has mobility. He walks here and there. The tree doesn't walk away. Okay. But I want to go deeper than that. The dog can be conscious or I can anesthetize him and he becomes unconscious. So the dog can have awareness and lack of awareness. He's asleep or he's anesthetized. A tree doesn't have that tree story. It's conscious, lack of conscious. So, what distinguishes the animal from the vegetable is that the vegetable has no consciousness, and the animal has consciousness. Now I will distinguish between the animal and the human being. First I made the distinction between the stone and the vegetable. The tree had life, the stone had no life. Then I did it between the tree and the dog. The dog had conscience, the tree had no conscience. Now I am comparing the dog with the man. The dog is aware, but he is not aware that he is aware. And Homo sapiens not only has consciousness, but he is aware that he has consciousness. And that makes the difference. I don't know where this will end, but this is called ontological discontinuity. You are seeing that in the evolutionary process things are aggregating. The vegetable added something that the mineral did not have, which is life. The animal added something that the vegetable did not have, which is consciousness. Homo sapiens added something that the animal did not have, which is consciousness of consciousness, and so on. This has a lot to do with the brain. So I'm going to start by introducing you here to the triune brain, the triune one. That in reality we don't have a brain in the head, inside the skull. We have three brains. We have the brain that is there in red, which is the reptilian brain, which ontogenetically arose in reptiles. We have the emotional brain, the limbic, which arose in mammals. And we have the neocortex, which we are its maximum representative. So, in reality, I have a reptilian brain, I have a limbic brain, and I have a neocortex brain. And in this neocortex there is an area, which is the prefrontal area, which is what really distinguishes you as a human being, which, unfortunately, the more recent, phylogenetically, a structure as, the more vulnerable it is. If you have a stroke, your neocortex is more vulnerable than your limbic, than your reptilian. You can stop talking, but not stop breathing. You're in a coma, you're shut down but breathing. So, the older, the more phylogenetically present that structure is, the less vulnerable it is. Unfortunately, what distinguishes us from other human beings is the prefrontal area, which is the last in evolution. Phylogenetically, it is the most recent, but therefore also the most vulnerable. Osramia, unfortunately, starts with her. Did you understand? So, the triune deer theory. In 1970, neuroscientist Paul MacLean of Johns Hopkins University started this theory. Today it is no longer a theory. Today it is true. It is a proven hypothesis. In 1990, he writes the book The Triune Brain in Evolution. This concept came out in a book, which I will show here the book. And we primate humans have our brains divided into three different functional units. The reptilian unit, the limbic unit, also called the neomammal, and the cortical unit, the neocortex. So here's Paul MacLean's book. If you're interested in triune brain and evolution, you'll find it on Amazon.com. Let me go deeper with you. That which is not in white, which is in gray, is the reptilian brain. It's made up of the brainstem, which you're seeing there, and the cerebellum. And everything works automatically. Your heart is beating thanks to structure. Your lungs are breathing thanks to structure. Your liver is metabolizing thanks to structure. You don't have to worry about it. This works on an unconscious level. It's there working for you. And it's a strong structure, because it's phylogenetically very old. So, it's difficult for you to have a stroke that will compromise that there. Here, the limbic brain already enters, formed from the hypothalamus, the thalamus, the amygdala, etc. That's where the emotional part is. You will see, for example, an alligator will not miss you if you have it as a pet. If you stay away from home for many days and come back, he's not going to be happy that you're here. Because since he doesn't have the brain to have emotion, it doesn't exist in him. Now, your dog, which is the mammal, already has this limbic brain. And when you arrive, he'll tie a little tail, he'll lick you, he knows you're coming. He has emotion, he likes you. So, as it evolves, we add possibilities. And here comes the neocortex, which you can see there, which is divided, looking from above, on the left side and on the right side, which have different properties, which we are going to show here, which gave Roger Spear the Nobel Prize in Medicine. studying the difference between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So, looking at it from another perspective, it would be like this. The strong yellow is the reptilian, which came to be from the reptiles. The limbic, which is also called neomammal, was when the evolutionary process mammals appeared, and the neocortex. And in this neocortex, the noblest area is the prefrontal area, which, as it is phylogenetically the most recent, is the most vulnerable of all and suffers injuries. So, here I am showing you, very clearly, the representation of the three brains. The reptilian brain, which is still represented by a snake, the mammalian brain, by that tiger over there, and the neocortex. It's these three types of brains that we have. And if I look in more detail, I will see a blue structure that is there, which is called the corpus callosum, which makes the connection between the left and right hemisphere, and which is 18% larger in women than in men. The woman has an interesting ability. Thanks to this connection of the corpus callosum being bigger, she is able to do several things at the same time. The woman takes care of the kids for the homework for tomorrow. She manages the dinner. She talks to her husband. She talks to her mother on the phone, all at the same time. The husband does not. He does one thing at a time. He's driving, and the kids are really loud. They say, "Your father is driving." Then, when the mother is driving, the children can scream all they want. But when the father is driving, no, he is driving. He only does one thing at a time. To do it well, it has to be one thing at a time. Even in sexual intercourse, the man does not want to talk. He is there for a sexual relationship. The woman wants to talk. He doesn't want to talk. He talks a lot less. So, that there, we'll show you in a moment. There is a surgery called causotomy, where the corpus callosum was cut. I will explain why. And it generated a thing option. But come on, what matters? As far as animal observations are concerned, the most famous experiment was carried out in 1935 by Fulton and Jacobson, on two chimpanzee monkeys who had their prefrontal areas removed. The chimpanzee is the only one that has a prefrontal area similar to that of man, human being. After the operation, the monkeys no longer solved certain simple problems, such as finding the food that had been hidden a short time before. And, in addition, the animals became completely absent-minded and no longer developed the characteristics of emotional manifestations of discontent and situations of frustration. There, in 1935, in London, when these authors were presenting this result in monkeys, there were two individuals in the audience. One was an American neurologist and one was a Portuguese neurosurgeon. And the two were in the same room, watching the same thing, and then each one went back to his country and decided to explore that of the human being. You will see what comes up here. One of them was Higas Muniz. Higas Muniz won the Portuguese Nobel Prize in Medicine. He won the Nobel Prize in Medicine because he developed a brain exam, cerebral angiography. That's not why he won the Nobel Prize. It was for cerebral angiography that he was the first in the world to develop. He was a Portuguese neurosurgeon. And he also created a surgery, which I'll show you in a moment, where he separated the front part of the brain from the back part, called psychosurgery. Here is the Hospital Junta Maria in Lisbon. There is a statue in his honor, Higas Muniz, this cerebral angiography that won the Nobel Prize. But he was also the father of prefrontal leucotomy, which he developed the year after he took that class in London. In 1935, he attended the class. In 1936, he started doing this surgery. He won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1949 for cerebral angiography, and he invented this surgery called prefrontal leucotomy, also known as psychosurgery, which today would be extremely unethical. If the doctor did it today, he would be arrested. But at that time it was a novelty. Many people submitted to this. People with psychiatric hospitals that were a lot of work. They did the surgery. They were good. It bothered no one else, etc.